Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Bucket Lounge. I'm here joined by a good friend, Corbin. How you doing, Corbin? Good to see you, man. Thank you for hopping on.
Oh man, I appreciate you bringing me on, man. This is fun. I mean, like you said, just linking
Yeah,
up again, and yeah, I'm pumped. I'm pumped, man. This is dope.
dude. Oh man. So we met at SBC this summer. Work with the summer league. You were an alumni, right? You came from the year before. You were
Yep.
in the 2021 SBC class.
Hmm.
How was it coming back this year as an instructor and like being working around everyone, also like working around the league too, like for the summer league.
Yeah, it was so. It was like so different and yet so familiar at the same time. Like a lot of it was like brand new in terms of like, okay, my responsibilities are different. Last
Hmm.
year my goal was just to come in as a student and just like you, make the most of it, make some connections, try to see what could happen. Kind of in more of a
Hmm.
real term, I was trying to get my money's worth out of this. Like that was
Yeah.
like my mindset every time I grabbed a soda, every time I did anything. Like we're gonna make this thing count. But like this year was different because you want to as an intern, you already have responsibility in summer league, so you wanted to work well for them. But also
Mhm.
at SBC, I was blessed to have tremendous interns as well that made my
Yeah.
experience so much better. Great advice and information and just being there and being friends, but also being interns. And so I just wanted to be that same type of person for everyone else who was coming in. While also we had one of the bigger classes we've had, so I was like, oh yikes,
Yeah, a lot of people,
a
dude.
lot of people. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
like 60 something last year when I was there, and this was 96. So, it was
Wow.
crazy. And so it was kind of like that, like balancing both of those out. And also I think for me was like the fun of like I guess living vicariously because I'm not right now, I'm in the class every day with y'all, but I'm not like
Mhm.
half the time, even I'm like behind the scenes, not really tuning into lectures and everything of that sort, not involved in the trade discussions or anything like that. But I'm still feeling the vibe and the buzz and the
Yeah.
excitement and like hearing everyone
Yeah.
talking. It's
Dude,
like,
I talked to you so many times like, bro, this is this and that. Like every time
yes,
I saw you, we talked about it. I even saw you talking to everyone else too, man.
it was
That
dope.
was
It
that
was
was so,
dope.
bro, so fun, man.
It was so
So
fun. And
fun.
so when people were telling me, I'm like, wow, like it was fun to like be able to bounce stuff off and like give, okay, hey, listen, my experience is different than yours. And you'll probably say it, next year if someone asks you, like, hey, our experience is totally different, but there is a common line in it because we all did the
Yeah.
same thing. We're all alum,
Yep.
even though the path may be different. And so, like, I really enjoy that. I was one of my favorite stories was meeting Buddy Scott, who works for the Boston Celtics.
Mm.
And he was a SVC student a couple years ago. And we were talking about
Oh,
like
that he was the cap guy, right?
yes, he was the cab guy,
Wow.
and he is the
Yeah,
cab guy
that's
for
awesome.
Boston. And so he graduated a couple years ago, before a couple years before me. And so I was meeting for the first time. We are talking. I said, hey, like, what was the dumbest like trade that you guys actually like had in your head? Because I said every team has one move, and
Bro,
he's
it's always
saying that
one move.
there's always one move. And so he was saying like with the Grizzlies, like it wasn't his idea specifically, but his team had wanted to trade um um John Morant and two first round picks for Bradley Beal.
Oh, what?
like, and like it's these types of things. And I remember you said that in a straight face, and I
Whoa.
just bust out laughing like, "What?" But there's always like, even in the trade packums, you can just say that there's gonna be one trade. You don't know who it is, you don't
Wow.
know what team, but it's always gonna happen. And I think that was
Wow.
emblematic of my experience, man.
Man, well, I mean, so let's talk about like encounters that you had, right? So you said you
Hmm.
talked with Buddy. Did you talk to
Hmm.
anyone else or the people you ran into? Like, for example, I saw Sam Presti in the hallway. We talked to him for a little bit. He was busy. Tommy
Hmm.
Shepard was cool. We talked to him. He was actually a speaker too. Like, he's familiar with SBC. So,
Hmm.
did you have anyone that you ran into during your time this summer?
I had a nice moment with Mark Jones. Um,
Really?
Talking to him in the
Wow.
hotel was pretty nice. Yeah, we're passing by him. And it was interesting. I didn't really get a chance. Again, busy. A lot of in our hotel, like ESPN, were there. Richard Jefferson I ran into twice. Had a
Wow.
moment with him once in the morning when I was checking on the buses, and he was walking by himself, and I was like, "Should I say hello?" Like, now I was able to dap him up. I was like trying to
Wow.
be mindful and respectful while also taking advantage of the fact that, like, wow, like someone like he's an NBA. We see him. I watched him play. Like we've all watched him.
Mhm.
We've seen him.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cool. Had a moment with Wesley Johnson, which is hilarious because I ran into him last year as a
Really?
student, just late night, just kind of in one of the random kind of spots you have night, the nightlife. And so seeing
Hmm.
him again, I was like, hey Wesley, like it was nice to see you. Like big fan, dabbed him up. So the only like conversation I maybe had more career focused would have been more Mark Jones, and I was just curious like how he's able to keep like I got good advice for how he's able to keep that same energy and passion, but in like he doesn't go over the top with it. You know, he's like
Hmm.
able to capture the excitement and the electricity of it all while still giving me the same balanced analysis. I thought was really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was it kind of for me. I think if you know if I'm able to rob if I do end up next year, I'm trying to get there next year anyway. Just regardless, I'm gonna do a better
Yeah.
job of like networking responsibly. And what I mean that is like, yeah, I want to make you, I want to meet you and hopefully has a connection. But like, even if I can glean like you know two nuggets of wisdom and maybe we never have our paths cross again. I just want to say, okay, I learned from this, industry luminary that this is how I want to present myself in a podcast, or this is what I need to do to keep going. And that I think would be really interesting. But yeah, I had a blast with that interaction. I think it was really dope to, like you said, you see Sam Presti, others meeting players, and
Yeah.
Alvin Gentry and others. I think it was cool to kind of hear other students have those interactions, to be like, that is cool. Like that's the power of like
Yeah.
being in Vegas in summer league, and also being with SBC.
Yeah, well, with SBC, I mean, you talk about Mark Jones. He was there with Jerry West. Like he was interviewing him, and
Yes.
I wanted to ask him. I didn't get the chance to, but like just formulating questions and like he was so Jerry West couldn't really like hear from the back of the room, so he was like,
Yes.
he was giving his own kind of question, and like the way he was just going about things was like so like wise. I was like, wow, like he can really formulate a perfect question. So like that's like those opportunities are what you get at SBC. Like let's talk a little bit more about like the stuff at SBC, like just some of the stuff we talked about. You get your own team, and usually in a group of four to well, this year we have 5 to 6 people.
Hmm.
Um, so can you explain to people that may not know what it is or like are interested in it, but like are kind of on the fence about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like sports business classroom, it's a week long, intensive course for those who are interested in either sports business or an aspect of that, whether that be the salary cap side, the media side, scouting, analytics, all of that. And so you are able to get not only an educational experience that's different because you are learning, draft equity 101, with Dan Purcell from New Orleans Pelicans, and
Hmm.
salary cap, of course, from the cap father himself, Larry Kuhn,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
Eric Pincus with his amazing insight and him teaching as well in operations. We talked about Jobs 101, and the great, just all of the great instructors that are in the program that you have access to for 7 days. But I think what's key about that is the continued access that you can potentially have after that by making these connections and fostering these relationships. So it's kind of dual because on the one hand, you have the star of the show. Everyone's pumped about it going in. I'm pumped
Hmm.
about just talking about it, which is the trade practicum or the mock off season practicum. The
Yep.
same type thing where like you said, you described it perfectly, grouped off with a bunch of your fellow classmates on a team, and you're going to go through, whether it's an off season or a trade deadline, one of those two cycles, and you make trades. You come up with a team direction. You present that to your owner, and their managing partners, and then you go back, you workshop that deal, workshop deals and potential moves, extensions, everything else through the course of an actual deadline kind of session. So you have like three
Yeah.
days to do it. It's really cool. And like you saw, the electric and just the war rooms, the late night
Bro, it gets
discussions.
heated too. People like get into that stuff. It's
Yes,
serious, man. It's some
it
serious
really
stuff.
it really is
Seriously,
all the
man. I seen
time.
some people from the Kings. They were just like split. Even when we started the trade, so you have about an hour, I believe, to make trades. Like that's when the
Yep.
trade window is open.
Mm-hmm.
They were stressing like 30 minutes in. They were arguing at each other, but then they came like that's part of SBC. So you learn to work with a group, right? Like you may not have the same views. My group, for example, we were split on what to do from the very first day, and it took us about a day or two to like really come together. All right, we're gonna come in this direction. We're gonna go about it this way. And there was teams like even the last minute, like just arguing and stuff. But I mean, they eventually learned. They came together and like everyone felt good about what they did. So how was it working in the group your year in 2021?
It's funny that you bring that up because I was agreeing with you like 100%. You when you're in these groups, everyone there, obviously two things. They want to invest in their future in sports and they love basketball. Those are the
Yeah.
requirements. You're not really seeing anyone go, I kind of like basketball when you shout out what you're shouting out to be in a program of this prestige, of this price point,
Hmm.
all of that.
Yeah.
So you know that for a fact. But also, it's from, you have different people all over. So when my group, we had a media person who was doing something with basketball. We had somebody who was trying to break into basketball after a long career somewhere else. We had our own cap guy who is, me and him were Lakers fans too. You love him. I gotta actually connect you
Oh
later on,
man,
and he's
yeah.
awesome. But me and him like fundamentally disagreed on our favorite team. It's like we agreed on the Lakers, and we were just talking, and he was like, he hated the Russell Westbrook trade, and I was like, dude, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that aged poorly. But like we're all there, and we had the Oklahoma City Thunder, and all of us at first had the same idea for what we wanted to do, which is absolutely nothing. Like we have this team, they're rebuilding in real life, so we're gonna rebuild in real life. Like we're cool, good, good,
Mhm.
good, got it, fine. Went and did our midterm, basically got ripped a new one in terms of like, well, we didn't even consider, what if at the time Ben Simmons hadn't, been the Ben Simmons we know. So what if he's available? What do you do? And we're like, well, we hadn't thought about that. Or what if, insert young superstar Darius Garland's available? What do you do? We hadn't thought about this. So fine. When we went back, that is when the differences in our team really came together for a minute, because we were like, okay, well, let's put a list of players that we all are interested in. John Collins, Darius Garland. We had, if you were young, under the age of like 24 and a star, a potential star, we wanted you. The Bridges brothers at the time, all of that.
Mhm.
And we had markedly different ideas of what we value those players as. I love John Collins, and I thought, oh, John Collins in OKC with SGA? Yes, let's do that. And my team was like, no, John Collins overrated, doesn't play enough defense, not good enough in offense. I was like, are you watching the same game I'm watching? Like we had like these type of like spirited conversations.
And he
But
did good that year. That
exactly,
season,
that's
he
what I
was doing
thought.
good in the
Thank
playoffs.
you, thank you. And so
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about, bro? Like he's good. But we finally said, you know what? Well, we have to try to come together and meet a consensus. And so we kind of did each kind of give and take a little bit. You know what I mean? I lost the John Collins battle, but then again, he was really big on, shout out to him. He's from Boston West, my guy, but he was really big on Aaron Neesmith. And we're like, no, like I'm not trading a protected first round pick for Aaron Neesmith. I mean, like he's not that good. No, he's gonna be a star. This and that. And it's like, no, he's not. Like, what are you talking about? And so like that, like, but we all kind of came together and give and took a little bit, and as a unit made deals that were smart. And part of what we did, like you said earlier, is that teams, some not every team is going to come in and say, okay, clear path, let's chart this out. Some
Mhm.
teams are going to do some behind the scenes talking. There's going to be some dysfunction, and so what we realized is, well, if there's going to be some dysfunction, let's take advantage of that. So, oh, you're imploding. Hi,
Yeah.
nice to meet you. Let's
Mhm.
talk business. And then that's how we get Jonathan Kuminga for Lou Dort. And then, okay, go to another team.
Man.
You want to get rid of Kevin Love? That's great. We'll help you. 3
Man.
first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, unprotected. Yeah? Okay, cool. And because they were still figuring, and that's how we were able to execute a winning offseason in terms of our moves. And then we all came together. Our team put together a killer PowerPoint and then presented. And I think that was the epitome of what you want to see, you know, as an intern, but like I guess as a student, when you look back, like wow, our team, we had our struggles, we had our trials, but we came in, we put our best foot forward, we put in a good plan, and we felt good about the process. And I think
Mhm.
SBC, if nothing else, is about the process.
Yeah. Man, I'm telling like for us, just for me personally, it made me realize like stuff like this happens in the league too. Like this team may have certain like everyone has a different plan, it's not always supposed to go how it's supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So man, from it was just a dope experience, dude. I mean, making trades and just for us, like we said, we had a clear path. So it was easier for everyone to know their roles. And one of our guys' name was Leo. He was wheeling and dealing, man. He knows how to negotiate, bro. So there's some stuff that you learn from other people that are there as well. Some people have certain
Yes.
skills. You're like, oh wow, like I took some stuff away. Like we had Jakob Poeltl. We're the Spurs, so Jakob Poeltl was on an expiring deal, and he got 2 first-round picks unprotected, a pick swap, and James Booknight from the Hornets. That's like
Wow.
4 first-round picks if you
Wow.
because Booknight was
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. So like I was like, wow, like this dude knows how to work it. Like I'm not the best negotiator, but like I came in like wanting to learn more and just those are some intangible things that you just learn from being at SBC and just working around other people, especially people that are like-minded and like when you're on the same page, man. That so like what you said about just you see dysfunction, you got to take advantage of certain opportunities and stuff. So
Yeah. And
SBC,
mhm.
good way of learning that.
Yeah, and you made an amazing point. On our team, we know me and my friend disagreed on how we valued Aaron Neesmith, but he was a tremendous negotiator. And I like to think I'm a good negotiator, but I'm really horrible. I'll be like, yeah, sure, absolutely, let's go. And so it took, like, yes, I wanted to negotiate, but it took me going, hey, it's not my thing. And he stepped up and did it. And you're right, we all chipped in. Like you said, SBC is one of those experiences that, like, it's amazing. And when you hear people say it, they're like, oh yeah, of course. But like when you do it yourself, everything everyone says, everything you know about SPC going in, Brandon, did that not come to fruition? Like how everything you were told and expected,
man, and more.
and
Like,
it's
and
crazy
more.
that it keeps doing that.
Bro, it every day blew my expectations every single day. And I was talking to Bo in the hallway, and like he was like, "Man, what did you learn from here?" And I'm like, I don't even. There's so much stuff that I haven't processed yet. Like it's the last day, and I'm
Yes.
still like, I just every day was just expectations were blown out the roof, and just I got way more. I expected to get a lot out of it, but just actually seeing that stuff firsthand and being around like just certain people that are in a program, you hear about them before, and like to see them, to build relationships with them is like, okay, these are real people too. Like they teach you, they work around here, you
Yes.
know. So man, it was
Yes.
dope. The guests that we had come, like Jerry West too. Like, oh man, I just the
It was
opportunity you
dope.
get at SBC, you just people that are interested, like take take the leap. I mean, I found out about it a month before it happened, and like I was texting my
Wow,
family.
Brandon, that's
They're
awesome.
like, do it, do it, do it. And I was like, do I? I did. I looked into it. Miles texted me, called me, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this risk. And dude, I'm
It
so
paid,
I'm telling you, we were talking about before the pod. Like, I wish we can go back to that week. Just one of the
dude.
best weeks that I've ever had, man. So SBC is definitely worth it and more.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad. Like I said, even knowing that story, I was not aware of that. I'm glad you're able to like
Yeah.
get the most of it, enjoy it, and yeah, take advantage. You know, stay tuned. There's always like a GM Academy or something like that in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's really kind of gearing up for the next year. So like the GM Academy is a great like bridge. I would say it's a nice cheaper like a teaser to kind of see what it
Mm-hmm.
is when you know you're fully immersed in the program. But yeah, this was a great experience. Like you said, man, if we could have a do over or something like that, like let's do it.
I can't wait. I can't wait for next year, man.
Yes,
Like
sir.
SBC or not, I'm gonna be at summer league, and we're
Hey,
just gonna
we're connected.
all connect
Absolutely.
and just talk and stuff.
Yep.
So when we first met, we talked about stuff that we have in common is we're both Laker fans.
Hmm.
So like you said, I was on Team Westbrook when we traded for him last year, and that was actually a year ago, 2 days ago, I believe, that we had traded for him.
Wow. What a
And I just remember
difference.
that day I was at practice, and I was like, oh, the Lakers made the move, this and that. LeBron, he doesn't have to worry about playing all these games. Westbrook's gonna take over. The season we had, we don't have to get into it. We know what happened,
We know how
unfortunately.
that worked out. Yeah. Yeah.
So this year's like agenda for the offseason was getting younger and getting more athletic. How do you feel about the roster we have now?
Brandon, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm kind of torn. Like, you look at the additions, and yes, like we did get younger, particularly in spots that our age really showed. You know, you look at the big position. You know, last year, you know, we had past his prime Dwight Howard having to come in big time to kind of help out. You know, with AD being injured, and look at our front court rotation. Carmelo playing a lot of four as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we just had older guys there. You know, and now with Thomas Bryant and Damian Jones, not only do you have some younger players, guys who are like approaching their prime, if not kind of in there, but you know the offensive game of Bryant is very nice. You know, able to shoot the three. Damian Jones, the Lakers should never let him go in the first place, in my opinion. I think you
I
agree.
agree.
You
Yeah.
know, he stepped up a little bit more in Sacramento and even kind of flashed a 3 point shot. Very, very low
Mm-hmm.
attempts, but the fact he's taking
Yeah.
it, like that's nice. You know, and then you look at Juan Toscano Anderson. You know, you have a Troy Brown Jr. You have Lonnie Walker. Like you have some guys who it's weird. I'm torn because they are younger and that's good. But like I was really hoping for some of what the components that 2020 Lakers team had that won the championship, right? You had good defense. You had LeBron and AD. You had just enough offense to skate by. You know, when I say that, you know, you're looking at guys like Kyle Kuzma. You're looking at guys, you know, like Contavious Caldwell Pope, like Danny Green at the time. Like these guys at least could knock down shots, could go for
Yeah.
15 a night, that sort of thing. I don't see that same type of game here. Like all these guys can maybe do that. You know what I mean? get you
Hmm.
12 or so.
Yeah.
Lonnie Walker, I like in terms of the Malik Monk archetype. Only problem is that he took what the entire mid level where we had Malik on a minimum,
I
and
didn't understand that.
we got that's what.
Because you the way
Yes.
you like what I learned about the mid level at SBC,
Hmm.
you don't have to use all of it on one player. Like half of that can be split into like Lonnie Walker, and then you save that for someone else. They just spent all of it on him, and like he was like right after he got signed, it's the Lakers, so you're gonna see everything on social media. And like a post I saw was he's statistically the worst defender last season, in terms of like on ball defense, whatever the case was. I don't buy into that like specific stats because like some stats are just I don't know. Sometimes the eye test is you gotta trust your eyes more than the stats.
Yeah.
He questionable jump. His jump shot is like off and on, but he is very athletic. He's extremely athletic. He fits the mold of Malik Monk, where he's like a guy that could just on some nights he can give you those streaks where he's lighting it up.
Hmm.
Um, just how do you think this roster fits with Russell Westbrook?
I don't think it does. I mean, I think for Russ, if you're playing with Russ, unless Russ is truly buying in, like has been talked about coming into the season, you know,
Mhm.
um, in terms of him playing more defensive minded, being more of a point of attack guy, a player he hasn't really been since like he came into the league. But
Literally,
also,
yeah,
yeah,
literally, yeah.
exactly. But also not
Mm,
being on the ball as much, which is a problem given that he's a horrific outside shooter, right? All these guys here that you're bringing in, whether it's, I mean, Lonnie Walker's probably your best shooter, which is not great because he's like sub 32% from three. Juan Toscano Anderson is an okay 3-point shooter on very, very low volume. Other than that, not
mhm.
too hot. And after that, like your bigs, they're not stretching the floor like that. And if you're playing through Russ, you kind of want to have like a miniature version of how you play with LeBron. Russ
Yeah.
is a lot more volatile, but you want to give him the floor, you want to give him the ball, spread the floor, shooters and defenders, right? You might have some defenders, really depending on who you mix and match, but that's and the
Mhm.
shooting is just as iffy. The only guy who probably crosses like both boxes is Troy Brown,
Yeah.
and
But
and, and even
even
he
then, he's
shoots
not
exactly
exactly.
low volume
The
league
thought of him is
average.
nice. The thought of him is nice, but I don't know. I've spoken to Bulls fans, and they're just like, all right, like y'all gonna have to see for yourselves, you know. So
Yeah, and you don't want to hear that. Like that's what I'm saying. That's that's what I think. A lot of this is like a lot of these signings seem to be that. Whether it's Lonnie Walker, we're like, oh, he can be hot, he can't be. Like you just got to see for yourself. We didn't want
Mhm.
mystery boxes. We want players that are going to help us with a championship, right?
Yeah.
And as currently constructed, I don't know how I feel about this team. Do I think they're younger? Absolutely. But do I think they're a better team than last year? I hate to say this, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think what the Lakers really banked on this summer and for next season is the the impact that the coaches that they brought in will have. Darvin Ham, obviously, he's been speaking about Westbrook being a really good on ball defender, something he hasn't done since the beginning of his career. But we've seen like what he's done with Milwaukee and like how he's Bobby Portis turned into a really really great role player. Like he
Hmm.
wasn't a guy that could space the floor like that, but he became a championship role player. Also, other guys on the bench, like they talk about how great he was for that team. They also brought in Chris Gent from the Atlanta Hawks, who was one of the best shooting coaches in the league. So I think they're really banking on like these guys having a big impact on some of our young players. You know, how do you feel about that? Do you think that's a realistic ask? Like, is that possible for this team?
I mean, like in terms of development, I think it is just
Hmm.
because you have so many younger players. Now is it the problem is, Brandon? That's what I'm wondering. Is it enough development that you could say, okay, like we are better positioned now to win? Like if we're looking at this,
Yeah.
let's say, God, knock on all the wood, but LeBron's not going to agree to extension, so he is shipped off, right?
Hmm.
AD in the Lakers was wow, that contract not really looking too hot. Some team might want to buy in on him, moving forward as like a piece for their championship team. We get back some picks, and now we have these picks. We have these free agent additions. We still have Stanley Johnson, Austin Reeves, Taylor Horn Tucker, and now we
Yeah.
look at the developmental side of our coaching staff between Darvin Ham, like you said, Chris Gent, the holdover. I'm forgetting his name now. Phil Handy. There you go.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know why I was
Phil's a
blanking out
beast,
there
bro.
for exactly. So if you were to have that line, then it's okay, cool. Like the expectations though are now significantly reduced because you're like, okay, good. His development can help them. Who knows what these guys could be? They're all pretty
Hmm.
young. with the team we have now, you're like simultaneously hoping that this coaching staff can like foster this young group and get them up to speed, but not the speed just for a regular NBA team, up to speed for like, okay, championship or bust, because we have 38-year-old LeBron James and an AD who's not getting any healthier, unfortunately, or younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm concerned about. Like, can you, get 3-point shots consistent from Lonnie Walker, from Troy Brown Jr.? Can you get updated defensive aptitude from some of these guys as well,
Hmm.
and also win games in a much tougher Western Conference where you can't give a lot of ground? And by the way, how y'all feel with Russell Westbrook, who may or may not be on the roster? It's a lot of questions around a weird roster.
Yeah, if I'm gonna ask you, but if you had
Mhm.
to say like where do you see them next year? Like and being as honest as possible. And you can
Oh,
let some I'm a Laker fan, so I think a lot of us get a little delusional at times.
yeah,
Um
oh, that was me
I just want to
last year.
hear man, I was waiting to the last second, like even the last until we were out that I was like, all right, we're done. We're
Me
not making the
too,
playoffs. You know what I'm
dude.
saying? So like the
Yes.
Lakers, it's easy to be delusional, but where do you see next year realistically playing out?
Oh man, as currently constructed, I feel like we're gonna be like the Spurs of last year. Like I'm looking at like 11, maybe 10. I
Really?
mean, the problem, and it's not even like this was the first year that I realized like wow, like I mean I was so delusional. Like it was funny you brought that up because when the Lakers had their final game that they had to win against Phoenix to be like mathematically eliminated, I'm in the Phoenix area, so I went to a bar with my friend to watch that game. Like, okay, win this game, and then once we do that, like we'll be able to kind of start a comeback. AD's getting back, he's gonna get a little healthier. You hear it, you feel the
I said
desperation.
the same
I was
thing,
like
man.
Malik
Oh
Monk,
my
averaging
gosh.
23 points per game since this date. Like it's gonna work out. Like we are gonna be okay. And when we lost that game, I was in disbelief. Like wow, like, and it was even worse because now we have the rest of like it was 2 more weeks of the NBA season, like a
Yeah.
week and a half, and now we're the Walking Dead, which I'm like, wow. And so what that taught me last year anyway is that like for a LeBron James team, he can't do it by himself anymore. We
Yeah.
can't will a team that is that ill-fitted, that injury riddled,
Yeah.
that XYZ. And so I look at this team, I go, okay, knowing what we know from last year, LeBron can be superhuman in times. Remember, he was second in the league, leading the league in scoring for most of the season. But when he gets injured, he's down, right? If he gets injured, and unfortunately, when AD gets injured, like, what do you look at for the rest of these guys on the team? Like, what do you think this team is? And I'm not very high. And I look at, okay, if we were going down the list, I had to pull it up just now. The Suns. I think there's some dysfunction there, but bottom line, the talent is still there, right?
Yeah,
So
this
they're
the whole
not going
team
to
is
just
there.
disappear. Yep, exactly. The Grizzlies, maybe a little bit injury history with JJJ, but the rest of the team constructed really well. We've seen how they played. Fine, they're there. The Warriors won the whole dang thing, so they're up there. Mavericks, Jalen Brunson gone, yes, but Luca and the same core has been pretty
Christian
good,
Wood
so
too.
they're there. Huh?
JaVale.
And Christian
Christian
Wood,
Wood and JaVale, so they got bigger.
there you go.
A
And
lot
that's
bigger.
another thing. They're way bigger. That's a very good point. Denver up there.
Denver's gonna be so.
And yep.
I'm sorry to cut off real quick, but
Yeah, no problem.
I had conversation. I just want to put this out there. So I had conversation with a friend about a couple weeks ago, and I think they're like my dark horse. If I had to pick a dark horse to win the championship, that's my team. I
Dude,
do. Oh man, I think they have the same like. It reminds me of Giannis and the Bucks. Like, oh, 2-time MVP, this and that. It's gonna be
yep.
voter fatigue. They're gonna be off the radar. These guys are gonna come back healthy. I feel like they're gonna catch a stride at the second end of the
Yeah.
season and just make a run. But anyways, continue
Yeah.
with your
Oh
list.
no, I agree. I agree. That's a great point. And like I'm just gonna run through real quick. After that, Minnesota, Rudy Gobert. I'm going by standings here. The Pelicans, Zion healthy. The Clippers, they're gonna be healthy. The
Mhm.
Jazz, I'm obviously dropping down. Spurs dropping down. The Kings, you bring in Kevin Herter, Malik Monk, a bunch of veteran guys. They're trying to win. And Portland. So that's all. That's 13 teams. That leaves the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Spurs and the Jazz. So 4 teams actively trying to lose. All these teams getting better.
Mhm.
I hate to say it, but I can't comfortably put the Lakers above a bunch of these teams, maybe over the Kings and the Pelicans. So now we're looking
Yeah.
at 10 or
We
11.
even mentioned the Pelicans
Yeah,
on the
exactly. With
list.
Zion. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. So now I'm looking at
Yeah.
10 or 11 for the Lakers. And that's hard. I mean, as currently constructed, if they make a trade for Kyrie or something like that happens, maybe we obviously drastically reset it. But as of right now, I'm not too optimistic, man. I hate to say it, but
I mean, so look, I'm gonna again say something out there, put something out there.
okay.
I don't know if the delusion's still there, bro. If you had to ask me where I see them finishing, I would say boldly a sixth or eighth seed. I think they'll make it via the play-in.
Wow.
But
Okay.
I just think, look, so this is a topic that I saved for last, but we can get into it right now.
Okay.
AD is obviously your X factor, and it's crazy to say that AD is the X factor when he's
Yes.
Anthony Davis,
He's
But
supposed to be our guy.
everything I've heard recently is just like he's lost a lot of weight. He's got in shape, and I don't know if it was you and I that were talking. No, I was talking with another person from SBC, but they were Lethal Shooter was rearranging his whole footwork on like pull-ups and stuff, and it looked goofy, and the guys were like, oh, what the heck, like it looks weird. It was like, okay, he's serious about what he's doing, like he's making some major fixes. And I had tweeted a couple weeks ago, like, could next year be the year that AD wins his MVP, finally wins the MVP? Do you think he'll have a bounce back season next year? Because I know we've been saying it, every Laker fan every year. Oh, after the bubble, AD's taking over now. He didn't do it. AD's gonna take over this year. He didn't do it. Now next year, I mean, there's no one saying it anymore. It's like, you think he
No.
could bounce back next year?
I think he can. I think that, like, at the end of the day, I mean, whether or not I have thoughts on him, but he was, he's on the NBA 75 list, 75 team. We've seen the talent he's had in previous years. Has he like been anywhere close to expectations since 2020? No, but you have to think that he's due for a big year. He hears the criticism; it's all over the place. You know what I mean? And now it's kind of going even from that to like peers. And so you look at him, you look at the motivation to be better, and realize that yes, like LeBron is still playing at a superhuman level at age 38. Like at some point, it's supposed to go from him to you. Look at the Lakers' record without LeBron and just AD has not been great the last couple of years. So you really have to look at a guy who has to be committed to increasing his not his volume but his productivity. There you go. And a lot of that comes from the outside. If you're actively a iffy shooter on a team that's surrounded by those around an aged LeBron James, not even aging, just like he's an older player, you're making it harder for him, and you are the co-star / guy going to take on the mantle. Like, I think that he's due for a big year. You hope that the work with Lethal Shooter pays off, but we're not saying all of a sudden turn to, KD from 3, but definitely be a guy who, like, is going to be a problem. And, like, AD lately hasn't been that guy. Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen it since before the bubble, too. Like, obviously, the bubble, he was a different breed.
Yeah.
Even before the bubble, because, like, I don't know. I had read when we first went in the bubble, there was like a stat saying, like, or someone had posted, like, when you're in the bubble and there was no fans, it's easy to see the rim or something like that. It's easier to make shots. And he did it. What I'm trying to say is he did it before the bubble. Like, he was having a good season. His first season with LA.
He was good that whole year. Like, he went supernova in the playoffs, but he was good that whole year. And you're right. We haven't had moments. We have moments in, like, the last couple weeks of the 2021 season. Moments here and there where he looked good. Not quite the bubble, but good. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, we need that consistently, and especially now because, like, if you look at the pecking order, it's clearly LeBron head and shoulders. That's what I look at. LeBron, fine. AD, you know what I mean? Like, that third person, Lonnie Walker,
I think we played, talking about that 2020 season, like, LeBron was the point guard. Like, it was LeBron's the point guard, and everyone was just shooters. 3 and D. It was Avery Bradley, Danny Green, and AD or whatever, and Dwight.
You had like, Kuzma, Caruso.
Yeah, so
all these guys.
That's man. So I feel AD. I'm just having that hope that he's gonna bounce back next year. I really hope so. I mean, from what I've seen, he looks really like slimmed down. He looks more serious about next season. So I think what the additions they made this year with like getting younger and athletic, it was more on the defensive side too. Like, you bring in Thomas Bryant, Damian Jones, guys that can guard the rim and obviously take off some pressure off AD, because AD, obviously, when he was gone, we had LeBron at center, and our defense was getting shredded like every game. It was shredded, and AD finally comes back, and it's a whole difference. He's switching on to guards. I think it was versus the Nets or someone. We had played against someone that he made his return against, and like the defense was immediate. Like, oh wow, like it's nice having someone that if you get beat, no one's going to the rim and stuff. So I think defensively is where we're gonna have to see that first, because
Yeah,
also with bigger players, the defense kind of ignites the offense. Like if they're like, or you can say the same way around. Like if you give the first play to the guy and like he gets motivated and stuff, I feel like for Anthony Davis, like when he's locked in defensively, like his confidence just goes through the roof, and
yeah.
no one can stop him. He gets a block, he's dribbling down the court, and he's like going up for a layup, something like that. So I hope they like recognize this stuff and like, all right, we're gonna. I mean, part of it is just him being healthy, you know. So um, I don't know. I just feel like I sound a little bit delusional saying he's gonna have a breakout year and stuff like that because I've been saying it ever since the bubble. So uh,
You're hopeful, man.
hopefully
I'm with it. Hopefully, yeah.
hopefully we get him back. Okay, as we wind down to our last couple topics, I wanted to stay on the Lakers path. Is the Kyrie talks to LA? Like, is the heart still beating, or is it just dead? Are we not going to see that?
Honestly, man, I'm hopeful that there is a chance to get him here. Like, I think that when you look at the Lakers, the need for a player of Kyrie's caliber is there. It's readily apparent. Someone who
Mhm.
could step in, maybe be the bridge between LeBron and AD from a talent perspective. You know, step up for one of them, be the main guy on any given night, give the Lakers one of the coveted big three. You know, but also his shot making, his ability to create his own
Mhm.
offense consistently, an additional shooter. You know, because that's just something that's needed in general. Like, it's apparent, right? And for the Nets, they don't need Kyrie. Like, I mean, they do, but they don't want Kyrie. You know, so
Yeah.
you would think that you have two willing partners just due to circumstance. Now, the problem is that, as with every team, it's not just the Nets, but the Nets want both first round picks, you know, particularly if they are giving Joe Harris away as well, who the Lakers seem to undervalue. And I get it, injury concerns, ankle injury, all of that, but you're also getting like one of the best shooters in the NBA over the last couple of seasons.
Hmm.
That would tremendously benefit your team as
Yeah.
well, in addition to
Match
Kyrie.
made in heaven.
Exactly, and Lakers for some reason seem not want to give it one of their picks, and also want Seth Curry over Harris, which I understand. But in this case, like the two picks are a non-starter. You have to think about that because one of those picks is just what's the price of doing business to get rid of the contract of Russell Westbrook, and then the
Hmm.
other pick is for the assets you would get in return.
Hmm.
Kyrie, you get both. You get okay, pick Nets gone. Now, yes, he may be possibly, you know, an issue for the Lakers in another capacity, possibly, but I'm saying in terms of contract wise, not even a chance. You know, so you give away the pick for us, and then you give away a pick to get Kyrie and Harris or Curry, whatever. And it seems, unfortunately, that's what's kind of irritating, Brandon. It seems like it's kind of all on the Lakers right now. Like, the Nets aren't going, now we don't want to play ball. The Lakers just like, nah, we don't want to give you both of those. Like, we're going to hold those
Yeah.
because of what? Like,
Yeah.
for
I
a guy
mean,
who's in seventh grade right now, you know, like,
literally. I mean, the one misconception that a lot of people have about the Lakers and their pick situation is it's not that we don't have just those two picks. We also have our 2020 next year. We have all these couple years. It's just some of the deals that we made previously limit us with the step-in rule. Like you can't. We still have our 2026, our 2025, or 2024, or some of those picks, but they're
mm-hmm.
just either swaps. But even then, swaps you still get your pick. It's just the worst. It's the worst of the two.
The worst of the
So
two.
if all it took were those two picks and you're Rob Pelinka, you're the Lakers management, and like a deal lined up where it's Kyrie or Joe Harris, Seth Curry, and they wanted those two picks unprotected, are you pulling the trigger? Like, what's your thought behind it?
Oh, I most certainly am. I think you're doing a disservice if you're not like giving yourself up. Like, here's the thing: you're trying to put yourself in the best position to maximize for a
LeBron's
championship,
window.
right? Exactly. LeBron's window, which he seems to be holding open by sheer force of will, because let's be
Mm-hmm.
real, as you know, Brand, Lakers over the last couple of seasons have not done him any favors. So
None.
when you look at that, it's okay, how can we do that? And yes, if that means giving away some picks right now, even like you said, pick swap, you're still getting a pick. Do you not trust your scouting department that's given you so many gems over the years, whether it's Kuzma with the 27th pick, Caruso
Clarkson,
undrafted, Clarkson. I mean, going way back, like you said, these
you
other
going right? Yeah,
gems in the second round. No, I'm saying like you've given like a plethora of picks
yeah.
over a substantial number of years of players who have come through. Austin Reeves last season, like
I
like
love him so
you,
much, man.
yes, me too, man. Like you have ascertained, the scouting department for the Lakers has ascertained good talent and done this consistently over the years. So a pick swap should be nothing. Even not having a pick should be nothing, because at the end of the day, the Lakers, like we saw this past year, it's only money to get into the second round. You know, now the fact the Lakers didn't
Literally,
get Jaden Hardy for me
literally.
is Exactly. There's a struggle. Like, thank you, Brandon. That face is how I felt.
Uh,
Max Christie. I mean, I hope he's good, but like Jane Hardy was right there. But that's besides the point. The point is that if you want to get a draft pick, add some young talent, you can do that. It's not out of the realm reality. But what is out of the realm reality is thinking you can win a championship with this team is currently constructed. Like
yeah,
even as your most optimistic brand, do you think a championship
yeah,
team's
no,
coming out of this?
yeah. If I'm being honest, like the more I think about it, is like LeBron, like is he's past. I'm not saying he's past anything, but he's past like carrying a team like we talked about. He's not
Yeah.
2018. He's not gonna take us to the finals. I mean, if we do get crazy AD and like LeBron's still scoring how he is, even then, like there's a hole as your third option. It all relies on Russell Westbrook. But like I said, I guess the whole Kyrie to LA is like relies all on Kevin Durant if Kevin Durant gets moved, and that's like the big domino effect, you know. So as time goes on, I feel like if KD were to be traded, he would have been traded already. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes me less optimistic that a deal will get done, bringing in Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I guess my only saving grace to that brand is like, listen, do you want to have this over your head in training camp? And we've
no
seen a few
facts.
teams, that think they want to play that game. You have a few teams that think they want to do that dance, and then training camp
Mm-hmm.
comes into question. Like, okay, we out. We saw the Rockets. It took super long. They
Mm-hmm.
played it with a couple of games. Like, they went through training, and then they got too much. And like that's what I think is going to happen in this case as well, unless KD decides to walk that trade request back. At some point, the Nets are just going to face it like they did Kyrie, and even then, remember that Kyrie situation ended up folding as well. So it's not like you have the most reliable Nets front office to go, yeah, we're going to stand by our principles here, and this is what it's going to be. The minute it gets a little too hot, they might be tempted to finally make the move they should have done, one could argue for a minute now.
And something they could do is like, right. I think it's December 15th and January 15th are when all
Mm-hmm.
players can be traded. So December 15th is like certain guys can be traded, and then January 15th is when like even moves that were made in the summer, like everything's good. So I mean, that's where the optimism comes in, where it's like, okay, like we can wait till then. Maybe the price for Westbrook, we don't have to give in these first round picks, like
Mm-hmm.
So that's what keeps me optimistic. I guess my mindset is like if it doesn't happen now, it's not gonna happen. But I could very well be wrong. Like they can wait because there's a lot of even right now we're so unflexible and like so are other. This is probably like the worst year for the KD trade, Kyrie stuff to happen because like so many
Yeah.
teams are capped in certain situations or they just can't trade certain guys. So I guess we could hold this off till like December, January. So I guess that's what us Laker fans are probably gonna be waiting for the trade deadline or around there.
That's all we have, man, to hope for right now. I mean, hope obviously Lakers come out the gate strong. Let's say that, like you said, this training camp, Austin Reeves, Stanley Johnson, you've seen some of these returning younger players in the gym. Hopefully we see, we've seen Anthony Davis working. Hopefully we
Mm-hmm.
see Taylor Horn Tucker because I'd like to see some, production out of him, in his, this has been his
Yeah.
third year now. So there's hope, I think, that these guys gel. And then at that point, they come out strong out the gate and they just have that, hey, we're going to grind for wins. Unfortunately, injuries are the reality in the NBA. Slow starts are also something that happens. Like the Lakers could find themselves in a more advantageous situation for them to maybe make some noise with the bigger trades. So yeah, it's just treading water and having total buy-in, I think, and a lot of that's going to come to Russell Westbrook, specifically. You know, but also the role players around him as well as LeBron, AD, try to get this boat all in one direction. To win those championship waters.
Yeah. So like, my last thought about the Lakers would be, look, my expectation. I'm telling you, like I'm so optimistic about this. I really like. I feel like we're gonna surprise a lot of people in the beginning of the season. Like
Okay.
I think Darvin Ham's gonna get these boys ready to play, and like our problem was like we didn't get ready for games. Like we'd come out
Nah.
and bro, we'd be down 15-2,
Yep.
all because like it was just no one took accountability and no one knew their role and no one. I feel like there was no belief in certain players. Like Frank Vogel didn't really believe in Westbrook on both sides of the ball.
No,
He didn't really
which
believe on him. Like like I feel like that does a lot. Darvin Ham even during the summer league, the benefit of being in summer league is like you see these guys like walk around you. You see how everyone like can come up to some guy. Darvin Ham, everybody was going up to him, and it was all smiles, all conversations. One thing I've been saying, there was a moment, and I think it was the Lakers Hornets game, where Darvin Ham there was a free throw. Someone was shooting free throws, and Darvin Ham had pulled one of the dudes aside, and this was a guy that's probably not gonna make the team, and he
mm,
had put his arm around him, talent, this and that, and like the dude just played hard every minute down after,
Wow.
and it's like like that does something to a team. Like that, confidence
Yes.
is the biggest thing in the NBA. Like it may not look like it right now, but when someone has trust in a dude, it just changes the landscape of everything. So I think we're gonna surprise a lot of people with how we start off the season. Um, I'm gonna just leave it at that. I feel like that's how it's
Okay.
gonna play out, and I may be wrong, and I'm used to being wrong with Lakers. Like ever since I've been
Well,
a Laker fan, man, when we lost Dwight, oh, we're gonna make the playoffs. We're gonna make the playoffs. We got Steve Blake and Pau Gasol. We're gonna make the
oh, I was
playoffs.
right there with you though. I
Oh
was right there
man,
with you,
so
man. I was right there with you. Yeah.
I'm keeping my optimism alive. I'm just gonna put that out there, and if it fails, I'm cool with getting clowned at. I'm a Laker fan. It's cool. It's whatever.
It's kind of the
So
hat we wear.
exactly. So the last topic we'll get to is who do you see? It doesn't have to be the Lakers, but like around the league, who should we be paying attention to, or who are you buying stock into to have like a breakout year? It could be. It doesn't have to be rookies. It could be like a guy that's an injury dude that's making a return. Like who are you buying stock into?
I'm looking at Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs, the Orlando Magic. Coming in when he slipped to fifth overall in last year's draft, I was like, wow, like that is a steal. For the Magic, I actually had like their dream. I wanted them to grab both Suggs at number 5 and then Moses Moody number 7. I thought he brought more
Mm,
offensive, like offensive scoring upside over Franz Wagner. Now, obviously, made the right decision, not because of anything to Moses Moody, just because Franz Wagner became that perfect like glue guy. But Suggs really didn't play super well. Shot 36%, 36% field goal percentage, 21% from three. And like it wasn't for lack of trying. The dude got up 196 of them three balls and only knocked down 42. So like it
wow.
was really really rough for him on the offensive end to find any sort of consistency. And defensively at first he did struggle, which you understand. He is a rookie. But what I
Yeah.
liked over the course of the year is that he did become a little more balanced. He averaged 15 points per game, 5.8 assists. If you look at per 36, that looks nice. You know what I mean? But like finding more of a rhythm, I think down the end of the stretch of the season and looking at this upcoming year, I mean, shooting was kind of one of his strengths. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like one of the knockdown like one of the best shooters out there, but he could definitely shoot the rock a lot
Mm,
more than 21%. So I think being a guard obviously rather takes a minute for them to adapt to the pro game, especially for him. Coming out thinking kind of slow with his I
mm,
think he had a injury to start. Now you have a chance to kind of get with the young group of Magic players with Paulo
yeah.
Banchero that he can develop some synergy with, some chemistry, get his shot going well, continue that defensive upside. I think we're going to see a huge kind of second year jump as the game truly like slows down for him and he realizes after a year, okay, like we saw the last month of the season with him in the Magic, okay, I got this, I can do this. And that's the guy I'm really looking at. Another guy, honestly, on that team that I'm also pumped for is Cole Anthony for a different reason. I think that he's just going to fully realize the scoring six-man role that, I think he fits to a T, and it's going to be great.
Perfect. I'll add one more on that team is Markel
Okay.
Fultz.
Oh,
Markel Fultz.
I love
Oh
their
man,
guards.
I'm such a huge fan on him. I think he's one of the best pick and roll players statistically in the league. I was just
Mm,
watching. I don't know if you pay attention to Kenny Beecham, King of the Fourth Quarter.
yes,
He had made
yes.
a video today, and like he had thrown a stat out there that Markel Fultz is a guy that's he's like second in like the efficiency and pick and rolls, like above Luca, right behind Trey Young.
Oh, wow.
And when he's healthy, he plays really, really. Like, he's so smooth, and I obviously the stuff with Philly, the whole jump shot thing. I feel like we're into like his fourth year, like fourth, fifth year, and like he's not relying so much on his jump shot, which I think helps a player at times. Like you focus on other parts of your game, pick and
Hmm.
roll. Like if, to be that high in pick and roll, I don't know if that is. I have to check again, but you're on a team with players that are not really like those guys yet. So like for them to be scoring off getting these looks, that just shows how much of a great player he is. But so that's
Absolutely.
another guy on that team that I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big year and like could be a big trade asset for them towards the deadline.
Yeah.
Do you have any other players on your radar that
I mean,
we should be
I'm
talking about?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Anthony Simons plays this upcoming year. I think that we saw a breakout year last year, right? But a lot of that was with no CJ McCollum, no Damian Lillard. So
Mm-hmm.
now you do have Damian Lillard back. You have Shaden Sharp. You're gonna have a backcourt kind of full again on a team that is looking to be competitive in Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
How does Simons kind of blend his game in alongside Damian Lillard. Can he play with Damian Lillard? Yes, we've seen it before, but I mean, can he still be the same kind of guard that he was? You know, kind of that co-star, that CJ McCollum role alongside Dame, stepping up in Dame's absence, but also kind of falling back to kind of give him that assistance. I want to see how he manages that play. And then what we saw was him like obviously taking advantage of the circumstances to give himself a breakout performance. But if that means that he has
Mhm.
to be kind of the guy running the show, or if that's something he could have like an on-off switch, how versatile is he with that skill set?
Also defensively too, like that's a backcourt that's
Yes. Oh,
kind
very
of they're
small and
not
very bad.
well, Dame's undersized. Anthony Simons for
Oh,
two is
Simons
probably a
is
little bit
good.
undersized, you know. So
Yeah, but 4
it's
2, yeah,
just
exactly.
yeah. So that's probably where I
Six
think
three. Yeah.
yeah. So they'd have
Yeah.
to really get greedy, especially with Chauncey Billups being more defensive orientated. That's
Hmm.
gonna be a tough ask, but I mean, who knows? We may see something like crazy from them.
Yeah.
A guy that I was getting into, I just had him on in my head. Actually, no, D'Angelo Russell. So D'Angelo Russell's a
Ooh, okay.
guy that bro, I'm telling you, bro, when he came into the league, he was like my favorite player. I have like two of
Yeah.
his jerseys in the closet right now because he's a
Oh, I
Laker
love
player
it.
too. So
Yeah, all day.
this year, I feel like he now has like there's a rim protector. There's a guy like obviously the best one in the league. The question on D'Angelo Russell is like I feel like it's the go-to is his defense, but he became a much better defender in the half court last year. I feel like that pressure of defense is not there that as much when you have Rudy Gobert like covering your weak side, especially with Carl
Hmm.
Towns too. Yeah, and you have also lengthy defenders and like Jaden McDaniels and other players on the team. I feel like he's going to take a huge leap offensively because I just that's the guy that I'm buying stock into because I feel like it's really low, especially after the playoffs. But I really like what they have going there, and everyone's expecting the third year jump from Anthony Edwards.
Yeah,
Uh, it's kind of for me, it's
I
too
love him.
unrealistic to just I love him, bro. I think
And
probably
Spawn, man.
he's gonna be. People talk about Luca being one of the greatest players of all time. I think Anthony Edwards is up there.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's
I
a real
agree with you.
conversation to be had. Like that he can be one of those. It sounds ludicrous, but he's build. He's athletic. Like you have the
He could be
Jordan
one of those
picture in the background.
guys. Yeah,
He
yeah.
man, he's. I've heard people compare him to Michael Jordan, and like it sounds crazy, but it's there. Like there's some he has potential to be a really good defender. Obviously, he's huge. I think D'Lo is gonna really compliment him well, like especially after this time of like getting to know it, like playing with each other and just getting a feel. This is probably gonna be the third season playing with each other. So that's the guy that I really D'Lo maybe a little bit more biased, but I feel like he's gonna have a really big year next year.
That's a good actual selection too. I agree with you, man. Because you look at defensively, he made major strides last year, right? You know, an
Mm-hmm.
offensive, I thought for most of the year he did, including the playing game in terms of
Mm-hmm.
running that Wolves ball club and
Yeah.
being that kind of point guard. But the problem is that inconsistently really struck in that first round. Like his numbers were very
Mm-hmm.
bad, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and he did not give the Wolves the support they needed. And you're right, it all kind of came to a head with him having to sit out, you know, that final most of that game six in crunch minutes
Yeah.
and have the ball go to Jordan McLaughlin. Like that wasn't great. But now you look, okay, fine, you're in a position where it's kind of set up for you to succeed if you think about it, because contract year coming up, so like you're definitely gonna have the motivation to try to really play well
Mm-hmm.
anyway, not only just for the
That's
team
another
but for your own
reason.
future, but also defensively you made major strides last year with the roster that just defensively was a junk it up, move around like all over. Now you have an
Mm-hmm.
impactful defensive player who's gonna swallow up your messes if they happen. Like when they happen, you have that guy to help you. You didn't have that last year. Also,
Mm-hmm.
you actually have someone you haven't played with in a while since what, Brooklyn, which is that center who can actually give you that hard pick and roll. You know, Cat's a pick and pop kind of guy. You've had guys like Jared Vanderbilt who just has poor hands. You know, you have other guys the Wolves had to play, that Torian Prince, who are more again pop kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get someone who is going to give you that gravity, going to the rim,
Yeah,
hard as hell
exactly.
all the time.
Exactly.
And I think
Gravity
that's
is
going to
such
do
an understatement,
wonders.
and like people don't talk about gravity enough. I heard a conversation on, I believe it was TikTok or something, where someone was saying only Steph has gravity. I'm like no, like if 40% shooters, the guys that are vertical spacers, that's gravity. And Dan Purcell talked about it a lot. Gravity is he talked about in vertical spacing. Vertical spacing is like his thing. Rudy
Hmm.
Gobert, I know he's not the best. Like you're not going to give him the ball in the post, whatever, but he's there to be a lob threat and to have that option of like having an elite big man shooter and Towns on the wing, and then you have Edwards who can slash on the side. Just the floor is more open. There's a lot more options for this team this year. So that's
I
that's
agree.
partly why I see him having a much better year than he did last year. So
Yeah.
yeah, any other players that you have on your list?
Honestly, I'm trying to think of one more guy. I almost want to say I'm going to give it to Lonnie Walker. I'm going to give it to Lonnie Walker. I
Okay,
want Lonnie
I
Walker to
like
have the
this.
same breakout year that we saw Malik Monk have, and I want him to, and I don't. I don't want him to because then we're going to have the same financial frustrations. And please
Mm-hmm.
stay, and hearing from Lonnie, yes, I want to stay, but the money, and you know what I mean. But at the
Yeah,
same time, you have a guy who defied kind of the expectation. Hey, he's a good shooter, but there's question marks about this, that, and the other. He redeemed himself. There's no place that's going to elevate your platform like LA when you're playing well. He came through at some really good moments. It was really cool to kind of become. I was already a Malik Monk fan heading into it, but to be like, all right, that's my guy. Like, if anyone's
my
going to come
best
through,
bro, one of my best friends, he became a huge Monk fan, like huge
yes.
Monk fan because he
I
just
got
showed out. You
Yes,
got a
I wore the
jersey?
shirt. You saw? No,
Oh, a
I had
shirt?
a
Oh,
I had a shirt I bought. It's right behind me, but it's like it had. I wore it out when I went out. The two times I went out,
oh yeah,
in
yeah,
Vegas, you
yeah,
saw
yeah,
it that
yeah,
had
yeah.
that Malik Monk
Man,
on. It was like that's why.
man.
Like I need to get myself a Malik Monk jersey. But bottom line, like
Even though he's
he,
not on the team either,
even though he's not on the team, I don't care.
just for
Retro,
fun.
baby.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah,
I think I see it there. I'm telling you, he's a raw athlete, and he's talked about in interviews like, oh, everyone wants to say I'm a bad defender, I can't shoot. He's one of those guys that plays with a chip on his shoulder, and like
yes.
I can see a big break. And as a Laker fan, I want to see we both want to see a big
Yeah,
breakout year, but it's realistic though. I
absolutely.
think it's there, like it could happen.
He's gonna have the shots. He's gonna have the opportunity. And like you said, he's young enough that it could literally be the exact same type of year. 23, heading into 24, same as Malik Monk last year. We're giving him a lot more money, but like you said, the opportunity's there for him to really make an impact, and you have to hope that he's able to do it.
Okay, so one last, and I didn't mention this, but one last topic I want to get at.
Oh yeah, of
Out
course.
of
Yeah.
all the trades that were made this offseason, what's the most intriguing experiment? So we have DeJounte Murray to the Hawks, the backcourt, two guards, one that's never played. I don't think they've ever played off ball each. Then you got
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. We just talked about Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm trying to think of any other big trades. So we got
Oh.
Brunson to the Knicks. You maybe
Mm-hmm.
getting Mitchell, a small backcourt. What are
Jeremy
some of these
Grant with the
moves?
Blazers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's the most intriguing that move that was made this summer for you?
I mean, I hate to be, stereotypical here, but like, it has to be Gobert to the Timberwolves, and I think the reason why is because you take a team that they see the expectations last year, up to a point. I think they actually could have won that first round series against the Memphis Grizzlies. Could have run it back. Hope for a big year again from Anthony Edwards. You made a huge sophomore jump. Let's see it again for a third year. You look at what Pat Beverly gave you from an energy perspective and
Mm-hmm.
just giving them that swagger that they needed to really kind of win some of these rough and ragged games, that attitude. Malik Beasley had a rough year, but as a shooter on a team that needs more shooting, you would have thought
Yeah.
that you needed him as well. So for the Timberwolves not only to part with all of that, but also a plethora of draft picks in the future, for a guy in Rudy Gobert who, has a longer contract, he's going to be paying for him from age 30 to 35, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Also we've heard about his struggles in Utah, but at the end of the day, is a 3-time defensive player of the year. Someone's going to
Mm-hmm.
just straight up impact the Wolves defense for a positive. It's like that alone just sets the stage for like a very interesting trade. Much less going into, okay, how does it all work on the floor? Can we see Towns covering fours effectively, with Gobert at the 5? What if teams go super small? Will they be playing those guys on the floor? I mean, you would think so, but that's a thought. How do the guards correspond with that? Because, D'Lo and Edwards at the end of the day are a better defensive backcourt than, passes prime Mike Conley and a defensively inept Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of questions there. What about the bench depth? Where's the shooting? Like all of that, that you have to wonder about with the Wolves. And again, how they fit in Western Conference, where they played very well this year, but that other teams got healthier and they're still in the mix. But where? So I think they're far and away that
I
team for me.
personally, when the move went down, I didn't know how to feel about it. Like I feel like everyone else didn't know how to feel about it. It's like you give
Mm-hmm.
up this. A thought that came to my head when I was driving the other day was like, they ruined the market. Like the Kevin Durant trade is not going down because Rudy Gobert got 4 or 5 first round picks. This guy got this
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that was the plan. Maybe it's like, okay, we're gonna go like this, but we're gonna make this big move. But you hear KD to the Suns or whatever, like that can't. it's not realistically going to happen. You know, maybe they're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, we do give up a lot, but like this stops KD from coming to Phoenix, or this guy coming to Donovan Mitchell coming over to one of our rival teams. So, how do you feel about like just giving up all that draft assets, but also holding the market too for like any other big moves?
I mean, I think it's interesting that like I didn't even look at it from that level. Like from a strategic standpoint, like yeah, we're doing this on purpose to like, kind of put a still on everything, and that just being, I don't know, that being kind of what it's interesting from Utah's perspective, I think, because you're
Mm-hmm.
right. Like now you've set that market artificially so, in my opinion. But you also said, okay, listen, at the end of the day, everything that we mentioned about Rudy Gobert is true. Him being an impactful player. Hey, we weren't shopping him. The Wolves wanted him. How much do you want for a player we have that is available, but like is going to be had for the keeping? I think that you're right. It can definitely do make some major inroads when it comes to a player like Donovan Mitchell, who again they aren't shopping but is available. The problem is like what team is going to make that kind of play? And at the end of the day, are the Jazz putting it out there like, oh, he's available for the right price? Do they have a fixed price, where it's one of those things we're going to try to catch the most and then go from there? You know what I mean? And what is that price?
Mm-hmm.
Is it double the picks that were given for Gobert? Like there's some more questions in the air as far as the expectation for value that the Jazz are looking for in Mitchell. But I do think you're right. Like that's a very interesting thought. Like, yeah, we already jettisoned one player and we got X price on the thing. It's like the Paul George trade last year or 2 years ago. Noted. All right, so now the rest of the league, pay attention, because now we got
Mm-hmm.
another guy and we want y'all to pony up.
Yeah, yeah. So I agree. The move is very. It's probably I would have picked the same thing. It's probably the most intriguing thing. Like two bigs. That's where like the past couple champs has been. Actually, I'd say just Milwaukee. It was like Brook Lopez, Giannis. But I mean, it's gonna be very interesting, especially in the West. But I know we could both talk about this the whole for hours, which
Oh
we
yes,
will get.
man.
I'll be on your pod, or we'll keep
Yes,
doing
sir.
this throughout
Of
the season. But
course.
I appreciate you for hopping on, man, and spinning some facts on the NBA, man. So hopefully we can get together again later this season and hop on another
Absolutely.
pod.
Hey, absolutely. That'd be a tremendous blessing, man. You always great talking with you. You know your
Mm,
stuff from one Laker fan to another. Appreciate you, man. And yeah,
yeah,
thanks a lot for this. This is a blast.
appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Sir.